Hello everyone and welcome back to IM Technos. In part 1, we covered what is S3 and its features like metadata and versioning. In this part 2, we will cover about tags, server-side encryption, and storage classes with a hands-on demo. And I highly recommend to watch part 1 before continuing this as we relate the storage classes with the bucket types we covered in the part 1. In the S3 console, select your bucket and navigate to the Properties tab. Scroll down past versioning to find the tag section. Tags in Amazon S3 are key value pairs that help you organize, manage, and categorize your buckets or objects more efficiently. They're commonly used for cost allocation, resource grouping, automation, and access control. I recently created a video on importance of tagging AWS resources. You can find the link in the description below. Now to add a tag, click on Edit, then Add Tag, enter project as a key, and IM Technos as a value. And finally, click Save Changes to view the new tag added. Now moving on to the next feature, a default encryption. Default encryption ensures that all new objects uploaded to a bucket are automatically encrypted at rest without requiring any manual action from the user. This helps meet compliance and security requirements effortlessly. When you edit default encryption settings for an S3 bucket, you can choose among the following encryption types. Server-side encryption with S3 managed keys is the simplest encryption option where the entire encryption process is fully managed by Amazon S3. You don't need to perform any additional configuration, making it suitable for general use cases where you don't require full control over the encryption keys. Now, for scenarios that require more control over encryption keys and detailed auditing capabilities, server-side encryption with AWS Key Management Service is a suitable choice. It uses AWS KMS to manage encryption keys, offer key rotation, and provides detailed logging through AWS CloudTrail. While it gives greater control and transparency, it does come with slight additional cost for KMS operations. For higher regulated environment or workloads demanding the highest level of data protection, dual-layer server-side encryption with AWS KMS is recommended. This option adds a second independent layer of encryption to further enhance data security. Along with stronger cryptographic protection, it also provides auditability, helping organizations meet strict compliance and governance requirements. And for this, I'll go with the first one, which is a default. You also have the option to enable the bucket key. This feature helps reduce the cost of KMS requests by using a single key for multiple objects, reducing the number of calls to AWS KMS. Click on Save Changes to update the settings. Now, before we discuss the next feature, let's talk about the storage classes. Imagine you have some data that you need to access frequently, and whenever you request it, you expect it instantly. That's exactly what S3 standard storage class is designed for by providing millisecond response times for frequently accessed data with 11 nines of durability. When I say 11 nines of durability, that means 99.99s. Which means if you store 10 million objects in S3, statically, you might lose one object every 10,000 years. Next, let's say you have some data that you don't need often, but when you do need it, you want it instantly. And that's where Amazon S3 standard infrequent access storage class comes in by providing millisecond access to infrequently accessed data with lower storage cost compared to S3 standard. Now think about having some data that you don't access often. You want it instantly when needed, but you're okay with little bit of risk. That's where Amazon S3 one-zone infrequent access storage class is designed for by providing instant access to infrequent data stored in single availability zone at a lower cost. Next, we have S3 Glacier instant retrieval. But before we dive into it, let's talk about Glacier as a whole. Under Glacier, we have three storage classes: S3 Glacier Instant Retrieval, S3 Glacier Flexible Retrieval, S3 Glacier Deep Archive. All three Glacier storage classes are designed for archival or long-term backup data. The main difference between them is how quickly you need the data when it's accessed. S3 Glacier Instant Retrieval is for archive data that is rarely accessed, but when you do need it, you want it back instantly, just like standard or infrequent access storage classes, however, at a lower cost. S3 Glacier Flexible Retrieval is for data that you can wait a little while, as it offers options to retrieve your data in minutes or hours making it more cost effective or less time sensitive use cases. And finally, S3 Glacier Deep Archive is the lowest cost storage class designed for data you almost never access. Think like compliance records or historical data. And retrieval time can take up to 12 hours. However, there will be some scenarios where you have some data, but you're not really sure how often you need it. Sometimes you might need it frequently, and other times you might not need it for months. That's exactly what S3 intelligent tiering is designed for by automatically optimizing cost, moving your data between frequent and infrequent access tiers while still giving you millisecond retrieval when you need it. Now let's talk about S3 Express One Zone. Imagine you have data that need ultra low latency access, even faster than SD standard. And it's okay to store the data in just one availability zone instead of across multiple zones. That's exactly what S3 Express One Zone is designed for. It provides the highest request performance of any S3 storage class with microsecond latency and very high throughput, ideal for high performing computing, real time analytics, or machine learning workloads. However, since the data is stored in a single availability zone, it is not as resilient as standard classes. So it's best for recreatable or temporary data sets where performance matters more than durability across zones. And lastly, we have S3 on Outposts. Imagine you have a strict requirement to keep your data on premises, maybe due to data residency loss, low latency needs, or connectivity issues. That's exactly where S3 on Outposts is designed for. It brings Amazon S3 to your on-premises environment using AWS Outpost. You get the same S3 APIs and features, but the data is stored locally on your Outpost hardware in your own data center or on-prem location. This is ideal for workloads that need to stay close to where the data is generated, like in hospitals, factories, or remote research sites. So to wrap it up, Amazon S3 offers a wide range of storage classes, each designed for different access patterns, performance needs, and cost considerations. Choosing the right class depends on how often you access your data, how quickly you need it, and how long you want to store it. Now let's take a look at how we can configure the archive settings in S3 Intelligent Tiering. This screen is where you define a rule to automatically move data from the Intelligent Tiering storage class to deeper archive types like archive access or deep archive access based on how long the data has been inactive. Here is where you give your configuration a name. The name must be unique and can contain up to 64 alphanumeric characters. Once created, this name cannot be changed. So name it carefully, like a backup rule. For the configuration scope, you can create a rule that apply only to specific objects based on tags or prefixes. For example, if you want your data to be stored under the folder path logs, simply enter logs in the field. Or if you want this configuration to apply bucket-wide, enable apply to all objects in the bucket. Under status, choose whether to enable or disable this rule. By default, enable is selected, so the rule is active after creation. Select disable if you are still testing and don't want it to run yet. This section determines when the intelligent tiering storage class should automatically move infrequently accessed objects to the archive access tier or deep archive access tier. Enable archive access tier for objects that haven't been accessed for at least 90 days. Enable deep archive access tier for objects that haven't been accessed for at least 180 days. In fact, you can choose both depending on your use case. Once you have filled out the settings, click Create to save the archive configuration. This helps automate data tiering, reduce storage cost, and eliminate manual intervention. And at any point of time, you can select the rule, click Edit, and update the settings as needed. If you no longer need the configuration, simply click Delete and confirm the action. And that's how you can configure S3 Intelligent Tiering Archive settings. This setup is ideal when you want your archive data to automatically move into deeper tiers without writing lifecycle policies manually. It's a great way to optimize cost while still retaining long-term data. That's it for today. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care and happy learning.